Welcome back, everyone. In today's episode, I want to explain the emotional development of our brains during childhood. I will also explain what kind of experiences we need to have as children to be emotionally healthy, as well as what happens when we don't have those positive experiences and how that will build borders in our minds. Finally, I will talk about how this affects us as adults. So let's get started breaking our borders together. I think it's important that we understand how our brains work and develop through our childhood so that we can comprehend what abuse, neglect, and trauma does to our brains. We need to understand how abuse, neglect, and trauma create borders in our minds that prevent us from being the happiest and healthiest person we can be. With this understanding, we can begin on a healing path. First, I'd like to discuss human emotional needs today, so that we understand what we need to become emotionally healthy people. There are two professionals who did a lot of work understanding human emotional needs. One of those was Abraham Maslow. He was an American psychologist in the 1940s. He created what we called a hierarchy of needs. I'll put a chart of this on my website so that you can see what that looks like. His theory suggests that lower level needs must be met before higher level needs can become fulfilled. And if any of those levels there are unmet needs, that will hinder the progression to the other needs being filled. It could also cause mental and physical health problems. So let me talk about his levels on the hierarchy. The first level is the basic physical needs that we need as humans, like food, shelter, water, and clothing. While these aren't about our emotions can be affected if these basic needs are not met. Like if a person is hungry, cold, or feels unsafe, it's hard to feel emotionally healthy and happy. The next level in the hierarchy is physical safety. Again, this one's not exactly related to emotions, but again, if this need is not met, it's hard to be emotionally happy. A person who lives in a dangerous area may have anxiety about being physically safe. The next three levels of Maslow's hierarchy do focus on emotional needs. Level 3 is about love and belonging. Humans are social creatures, meaning that we thrive on interaction with other humans. We innately desire connections through relationships. These relationships are with family, friends, and acquaintances. We long for connections with people that fuel our feelings of acceptance and love. The next level of Maslow's hierarchy is self-esteem. This is how we feel about ourselves, our values, and our abilities. Having support, guidance, and acceptance from our parents as children helps to build up our self-esteem. The last tier of the hierarchy is called self-actualization. Maslow believed that when a person felt completely comfortable with who they are, what they contribute to the world, and their worth on the planet, then all of their needs have been fulfilled and they are the happiest and healthiest a person can be. In the beginning of his work on this theory, Maslow thought that if the first level of the hierarchy was not reached, then a person would not be able to reach higher levels on the hierarchy. So if a person did not have the physiological needs of food, water, shelter, they would never be able to reach self-esteem. He later changed those thoughts and said it is possible to reach various levels on the hierarchy without achieving the level below. But his main point was that the ultimate level of happiness was to reach the top level of self-actualization. He also believed that if anywhere on that hierarchy needs were not met, then a person would have emotional issues and suffer some unhappiness. The second professional that worked on emotional health needs is William Glasser. He was a psychiatrist working in the 60s. He developed what they called the choice theory, and I'll put another chart on my website for you to look at that sums up his theory. According to the choice theory, individuals are driven by the attempt to satisfy these innate needs we have, and their behavior shows their best effort to meet them. Now, like Maslow, he believed unmet needs can lead to self-defeating behaviors, and fulfilling the needs will lead to a more satisfying life. Also, like Maslow, Glasser believed that we have survival needs for food, water, shelter, and safety. He also believed in the need for love and belonging, just like Maslow. One key difference in Maslow's theory and Glasser's is that choice theory says you choose your behaviors to meet your needs. They aren't necessarily built upon each other. Glasser saw that other needs, such as freedom, power, and fun, are also emotional needs. Freedom to choose your behaviors, your lifestyle, and your environment. The power to create who you are, your accomplishments, and your recognitions. And lastly, having the choices to make your experiences of enjoyment and relaxation. I personally agree with both theories in different ways. Of course, we need physical things like food, water, shelter, clothing. But for this episode, I'm just going to focus on the emotional needs part for now. I feel that Maslow and Glasser saw some needs similarly, and I would like to kind of combine their two thoughts and say that, in my opinion, the three most important emotional needs are love, acceptance, and safety. Not physical safety, but safety within our relationships. When those needs are not met, we struggle with the other needs that Maslow and Glasser discussed of self-esteem, choices, relationships, power, and self-actualization. Humans innately want to feel happy, and we will do almost anything to feel happy, especially if our life is filled with negativity, like from abuse or neglect. If we are emotionally healthy, we typically feel happy. But children raised in abusive or neglectful homes often aren't emotionally healthy and therefore are often unhappy. And we carry that burden into adulthood. Before we can talk about whether we have problems with emotional needs being fulfilled, I want to explain to you how we develop emotionally through our childhood. Let's first talk about typical age-appropriate development. What should be happening as we grow? I want to talk about from birth to 5 years first. During this time, something called brain synapses happens more than any other time in our life. Brain synapses is a communication between the neurons in your brain that process information and put it into memory. From birth to 1.5 years old, brain synapses happens to create thoughts, feelings, and learning. It's kind of like a blank slate when we're born, and then all of these ideas and thoughts and feelings happen as we grow. Communication happens during this period through crying and smiles. We don't really have the words yet. When a child needs something, like comfort, food, or to express their in pain, the parent has to provide what is needed. The child can't do that for themselves. When a child's needs are met, they develop safe and secure feelings. They learn that they matter and will be cared for. During this time, there is the emotional feelings of trust versus mistrust being established. When a baby cries, it can trust that its parents are going to be there to meet its needs. From 1.5 to about 3 years old, this is a time where verbal communication and independence start. Children have established the sense of safety and security in the earlier years, and now will try to rely less on their parent. Freedom to explore the world and guidance in accomplishing tasks independently allows the child to develop confidence. and know when the world is a safe place. Trust versus mistrust is more solidified at this age. Children can learn how to do and say new things with the support and encouragement of their parents. During ages 3 to 5, this is the beginning of some socialization. Children are learning to have a little bit of independence while also learning to positively interact with others. Sharing, empathy, kindness, cooperation, and compromise are all discovered during this time. They can feel safe navigating the world and other relationships with their peers because they have had their parents' love and support to guide them. Now, from 5 years to around 10 to 12, children will start developing moral ideals, figuring out what's right from wrong, understanding consequences of their behaviors, having some more independence, developing friendships, and having more feelings and being able to identify and communicate those feelings. Children are learning even more at this stage, figuring out who they are, and what they like to do. They can experience these things safely if they have their parents' love to support and guide them through this learning stage. At middle school age, children will start developing a self-identity. They have a stronger sense of right from wrong. They may start comparing themselves to their peers, and they'll develop more and stronger friendships during this time. They are learning more, developing a self-identity and some self-esteem, figuring out what they like and what they want to do. They can experience this safely, again, if their parents' love and support are guiding them. But they're also starting to want their own freedom away from their parents. And depending on the situation, a parent may be willing to kind of let go and let them experience things on their own. From high school to the age of 25, self-identity becomes what is most important. What is your place in this world? Children will develop a stronger sense of values and independence and be even more involved in their peer relationships. At this age, children are still learning about the world, people, and experiences, but hopefully the parents are allowing them to explore some adult experiences with guidance so that the child can learn some things on their own in a safe way to prepare for making decisions in their adulthood. Parents may start to kind of withdraw their control over the child a little bit so that the child can learn how to function in the world on their own as an adult. Now I'm going to revisit those developmental stages again, but this time I'm going to discuss what happens to development if you're not raised in a supportive and positive home. This is when the borders are created in our brains. So go back to birth to about 5 years. Children develop the sense of being safe or secure if their needs are met. When parents aren't responsive to their children's cries or physical needs, a child is going to develop a sense of feeling unsafe and insecure. When abuse or neglect happens, a child begins to anticipate what negative behaviors may come. Those brain synapses that I talked about are being trained that my needs are not going to be met, or my needs may be met with harmful situations. If a parent does not interact in positive situations with the child, learning experiences will not happen where a child is supported in gaining independence and knowledge of what to do in situations. A child may feel unsafe and not calm because they never know if their needs are going to be met, and they haven't learned how to function in the world without parents providing learning experiences. Children have to learn everything, like manners, feeding themselves, dressing themselves, self-control, and how to have healthy relationships. They're not just born knowing how to do these things. Without guidance from their parents, children will not know how to positively interact in social situations. Borders in the child's mind at this time are being created that say they are not worth having their needs met. They're not in a safe environment, and unsafe environments become their normal state of mind. From 5 years to 10 to 12 years, children who experience abuse and neglect struggle to identify and communicate their feelings because they were not allowed to express their feelings or were shown how to cope with their emotions in the past. Borders created at this stage are that the child is not good enough to be loved, does so much wrong or makes their parents unhappy with their choices. Thoughts of being unworthy, bad, and even burdensome can develop at this time. They develop feelings of low self-esteem due to parents not supporting who they are, what they feel, or encouraging their growth in becoming who they are. Their self-worth is diminished when the abuse is in a way that tells the child they are a burden or the cause of the abuse. And self-identity is not created because the parent is not supporting that learning experience. Borders in a children's mind of, I'm a bad person, I can't do anything right, no one is going to care for me, can all happen at this age. Also at this age, children may start copying the action of their peers, seeking a place of their own and trying to figure out who they want to be. They haven't been given that guidance at home or allowed to experience things to create their own identity, so they're going to look for that in someone else. Negative behaviors may surface due to the lack of being able to communicate their feelings and to self-regulate. Children will become frustrated because they don't know how to control their emotions, because they haven't had the support and guidance from their parents to know how to do that. They may think that there's not any value or worth in themselves, and this can cause sad and angry feelings that they can't cope with, so they may begin to act out. At middle school age, this is a time that's supposed to be for forming their identity. But without that positive support encouragement in earlier years, children struggle to figure out who they are. They don't know what to become, so they may absorb whatever they see around them. Oftentimes, it's the personality of whoever is around them at the time. They try on the identity of others they are around, searching for who they want to be. Unfortunately, they're also often looking for acceptance and may find that in the wrong places. Children without self-awareness and self-regulation sometimes act out, act silly, or misbehave because they don't know how to act appropriately and are seeking attention that may not be getting at home. Humans are often attracted to people who share interests and like personalities. So children who act negatively will attract other children who act negatively. They will provide each other with the attention and acceptance they didn't get at home. However, they may not develop a healthy sense of identity while they're in that environment. Children can develop anger that their needs have not been met and that they have to deal with so much negative attention from the parents' abuse or neglect. They want the negative feelings to stop. They want to be happy and fit in. They want to feel loved and accepted by others, but don't know how to do that in a healthy way. At high school age, it's a continuation of the middle school issues I just discussed, but now they will have more freedom because they're older. They can spend more time with friends instead of family, which can lead to more influence by their peers. By this time, they felt so much hurt, anger, and helplessness from the abuse and neglect that they look for ways to ease that pain. They may turn to substances or negative behaviors for the release. As they near adulthood without the skills to function in healthy ways, they will probably make bad decisions for their future. Now I want to talk about how these issues can carry into our adulthood, how the borders in our minds created in childhood are continued into our adulthood. Adults who have not had needs met as children do not know how to fulfill their own needs, or they may find negative ways to meet their needs, like drugs, alcohol, smoking, or violence. Parents meeting a child's need not only provides the satisfaction of having the need met, but also the parent's behavior shows a child how to meet their own needs. Adults who have not been shown healthy ways to meet their needs will search for whatever means are possible to meet their needs and to feel happiness. Often they do not make healthy choices for meeting their needs. A lack of needs met results in anger and or depression and can affect the relationships that they have. Long-term abuse and neglect can lead to emotional disorders like anxiety, depression, and hypervigilance that affect the way a person develops their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors well into adulthood. In a future episode, I will discuss these disorders further. The way a child is treated by their parents has a major impact on their emotional development, their beliefs of themselves, their thoughts on the world around them, and how they interact with others. Understanding what we experienced and what we should have experienced will help us along our healing journey. In my next episode, I will discuss what abuse, neglect, and trauma are, as well as how they affect children and adults. It is these experiences that create borders in our minds and prevent us from having feelings of contentment, happiness, and emotional health. I hope you will continue to join me as we break our borders together. Be sure to follow me on your favorite podcast provider, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Thanks for listening.